Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bench Miner podcast. I'm Matt Hort alongside Josh Law and Pete Fricano. If you know Josh Law, he's the PA announcer for the Seawolves. And if you know Pete Fricano, one of the broadcasters for the brand new team, the Monroe Moccasins. So how's the first week, guys?
Yeah, Pete, you can go first, buddy.
Well, it didn't start out the way I would hoped in Monroe. We did get to face off against the Athens Rock Lobsters, and those boys are pretty tough. Opening night, which was Friday, we were doing pretty well in the beginning. When I say beginning, I think it was the first 18 seconds they scored on the first shot on goal, which let the air out of the room a little bit. Yeah, our starter Marcus Ekholm Rosen is our Swedish goaltender at 6'3". And yeah, that was kind of set the tone. We went down early. They took the crowd out pretty quick. We had the attendance of 5,000, I believe 5,200 and change, somewhere in that ballpark. And the arena holds 53. So that was pretty good for the opening night.
There you go.
Final score of that game there was a 7-2 loss to the Rock Lobsters. It was actually a lot closer than that. The third period they fell apart late, and 3 quick goals came in, and that pretty much set that out.
Yeah, and you were talking about those Swedish guys, in the preseason there. I know we were talking kind of offline. You were talking about all the guys you guys were catching out of Sweden and stuff. And, if we know anything, Sweden has some really solid players. So hopefully they'll be able to develop them a little bit more and get them more into the fight.
Yeah, and to our surprise too, Hugo Coach got returned from the SB from his tryout with the Bulls.
Oh, I must not have seen that.
Yeah, Hugo was in the lineup. Matter of fact, he's rooming with Joseph Furtado at our apartment. So I'll be hanging out with them because I'll be sleeping over there when I visit Monroe for the home games.
Say, great kid. Hugo's a really great kid.
Really great kid.
Kid's fire. He killed us with Baton Rouge last year, and I told him that on the phone yesterday. So he laughed about it. But yeah, the kid's fire. We also have this other young man from the GMHL up in Canada. He was the number 3 scorer in the league last year. He's 5'9", but he flies like a rocket. And I don't know where he gets his shot from, but he really lets one go. We've got great defense and good goaltending. We've got Sean Kuhn, who stood on his head in game 2. We wound up losing that in a really close one, 3-2. That one could have gone either way. Dare I say questionable officiating? I don't want to be in trouble because I know some broadcasters have said it during the broadcast, but since this isn't a broadcast, I think I can say that.
That was kind of my go-to last year, was talking about how bad the officiating was. But, I'm also not really a much of a broadcaster myself.
You get that plus the director of officiating for the league being one of the referees in both games for y'all Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and plead the fifth on who the refereeing crew is, but I'm pretty sure you would know who the head referee was, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And look, and I like those guys a lot, but I think some of the calls were a little off. But hey, that's my opinion. I'm entitled to it.
Referees are human. They're going to make mistakes like everyone else. I interact with a lot of the crews throughout the season, just working with the off-ice officials and talking with the on-ice. They're all great guys, but they're human. Mistakes are going to happen.
Yeah. Let's just hope they don't happen too often.
Yeah.
So, Josh, were you able to catch the Seawolves games for this past weekend?
Yeah, I got to watch both games. First game started out pretty hot. We scored the opening goal in both games. There were just a lot of mental mistakes made at times, and I'm going to think that's going along with they'd only skated together for a few days with each other. So they're still trying to build that chemistry, still trying to get their line straight. There was a lot of good that came out of it, especially there in that second game. They just kept throwing shots at the net. The main thing I'm going to say the Seawolves are going to be really successful here if they can continue on is crashing the net. and looking for second chance opportunities off rebounds. That's something we did very well this past weekend with. A few things that need to work on, just making sure your passing's in sync, getting good breakout opportunities out of your own zone, and trying to set up a good circulation in the offensive zone. But other than that, I have a great feeling for this season. You look at one of our new pickups, Noah Hippolyte-Smith, 2 goals, 2 assists in that second game. Great pickup. Don Carter Jr. also got 2 assists in that game. Kyle Russell, 2 goals, 1 assist, and Matt Stoya coming in with 1 goal and 1 assist. And Stoya, starting off on defense last year, I thought he had a great presence. But looking in this year, I think he's going to be playing forward a little bit more. And he has one hell of a slap shot. So if you can get him any opportunities where he's open and get that one-timer opportunity across to him, there's going to be a lot of goaltenders that are going to be in some trouble this season.
How about that resiliency from the Blue Ridge Bobcats? There in game 2, they were down, 5-0 at one point?
Yeah, and that's probably the other thing. Credit all due to Blue Ridge. They fought back. They played really hard, lots of hits, especially for a preseason game. I wasn't expecting that level of physicality, but, you're stepping up. You're making a name for yourself. I'd say that's the other biggest thing is Mississippi's going to have to play 60 full minutes each game if they want to continue on. Like I said, 5-0 lead. Ended up winning the game, thankfully 7-6 in overtime, but you got to do what you can to limit scoring chances there on the opposition.
Now, we saw some of our first fights of the season in game 2 for the Seawolves and the Blue Ridge Bobcats. Now, the first fight was Stoya. He was mixing it up, but then Philip Wong ended up coming on the back end of it, and he ended up getting shown the gate. Could you did you hear anything about that we could share?
No, I hadn't heard anything. I think a lot of the times when you see that, I didn't see either. And I could go back through trying to find the penalties on it, the actual listings as what was going on. But I think a lot of the times it's referees trying to take control of the game. If they think something's going to continue to get out of hand, it's better to just send the guys to an early shower than letting things get out of control. And there were some, I'm going to say, questionable hits throughout that second game. But at the same time, the players from Mississippi weren't going to back down. You saw them standing up for each other. And that was probably one of the biggest things I've seen as far as the new camaraderie, because this is, I'm going to say honestly, basically a brand new team. Only a few returners from Mississippi from the previous 2 seasons, but a lot of new faces, a lot of young, great talent. And I think it's going to be a good season for Mississippi going forward.
And a Michael Haskins homecoming.
Yes, I'm very excited for Michael to be home. I hated seeing him go after the expansion draft to Baton Rouge. He's well-loved here. He's well-loved in Baton Rouge. But I'm great to have him back here wearing a Seawolf sweater.
So I was able to talk to Sean Johnson a little bit earlier. Sean Johnson's the assistant GM for the Watertown Wolves, as well as the original founder of Bench Minor Hockey. And, he said he had a great weekend. Watertown took on Binghamton. Spoiled home openers was the theme for that. They went into Binghamton they came game 1 into Watertown and spoiled their home opener. And then, fortunately, night 2, Watertown went into Binghamton and then spoiled their home opener. So I thought that was very fitting, especially because Binghamton raised the banner. So that was kind of cool.
You have the high of winning the championship the last season, and just the gut punch of losing that home opener, finally raising that championship banner. I mean, that's what you aim to do. I mean, you want to win any game you can, but just that extra little punch of maybe knocking them down a pedestal or two.
Yeah, and they're going to be tough again this year. You can tell. I mean, those two games were close. You got game one was a 3-2 victory by Binghamton, and then Watertown beat them 5-3 at their homecoming. So it's going to be. It seemed like the games were a lot. I mean, there were tight games around the league, but you saw more of the high scoring games down in the South.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say that first Rock Lobster's franchise goal by Garrett Milan couldn't have been done by a better guy. He was a great presence in the SPHL at the Pensacola Ice Flyers. Excuse me. There's me going back to my roots back in the old ECHL. But I know Garrett was I think he was their captain for the last few seasons in Pensacola. So that's a great pickup by Athens.
Was that wraparound pass?
No, it was just a quick wrist shot from the top of the left circle.
Oh, yeah, right underneath the stick, stick side.
It might have been their first goal on night 2, where he just did like he backhand around and slid it, and there was a guy right over on the other side ready to take the open net.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was gorgeous.
And I mean, you want to talk about some fancy goals? How about that overtime game winner from Noah Hippolyte-Smith? The between the legs over the goalie's shoulder on a breakaway.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the player. That kind of goal was made famous. He played for the New York Rangers. Hadn't scored like all season, and they just threw him in late in a shootout, and he just said screw it and did it and scored. One of the coolest moments I've seen as far as the NHL and trick shots.
Yeah, man. I wish I was able to watch it, but yeah, that was there was a lot of I tried to get some clips to put on here, but unfortunately, I'm still learning the system. Maybe I'll talk to Sean. He used this before. Maybe he knows how to do like almost like a screen share type thing. But I know we talked and we said that there was no games in the SPHL, but I know that Birmingham did have a game. It may not have showed it on their website, but Birmingham, the Bulls, I think they got a 5-1 victory on Saturday. I remember seeing it on their post. I might have to look it up here and see if I can find it, but that's another one. I wish they had a way of watching the SPHL games without having to pay for it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Makes it a little more difficult to report on it. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
The other night it wasn't showing any games, but it is showing. This Friday you got Fayetteville and Roanoke, Huntsville at Birmingham, Knoxville at Evansville. If I can get the deal to scroll over. Then Saturday, Roanoke back at Fayetteville, Birmingham at Macon, Knoxville back at Evansville, Huntsville at Pensacola, Peoria at Quad City. And that'll do it for this weekend. And games will be picking up next Friday night, the 25th, for the second week of SPHL hockey.
Yeah, on Birmingham's Facebook page, they reported a 5-1 victory over Pensacola, with 2 goals by Glover, 1 by Bond, Rose, and Olenek.
Jackson Bond getting in some goal scoring.
Is that where he went? He went up to Birmingham?
No, actually, I think he's in camp with Pensacola right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of Fed guys over there in Pensacola right this second.
There's a lot of people on loan right now.
Right.
Curtis Hanson from the Seawolves is there.
Say Wyrick.
That's right. You guys got
Wyrick's on loan.
Yeah, he's on loan to the coast over there at Salt Lake City.
That's Blake Wyrick.
Blake Wyrick, right.
Yeah, he's on loan with Tahoe Night Monsters of the ECHL starting
Tahoe.
their
That's
Tahoe. Yeah, I know Lucas Helland. Last I heard, still on loan with Knoxville in the SPHL.
mhm.
I'm trying to remember if any other guys off the top of my head are actively out. Um, I know there's a few, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
So we were able to talk about a lot of them on night one. Um, Another one that popped up on night two, Motor City Rockers defeated the Port Huron Prowlers 5-4.
Yeah, and that came in a shootout. Bringing up
And
shootouts,
their
Pete, as a
rivalry
goalie,
is,
what is your opinion as a goalie on the shootout in hockey?
well, it was different. Well, defending one?
Well, I mean, you have some people that think there's no room for it in hockey. It takes away the team aspect of the game versus being a way to end a game if it's going to continue on.
So I'm really still kind of not a fan of it. I'd rather have the overtime period and go with it. I'm still kind of old school that way. If you're gonna do the shootout, I don't think the forward should be able to go all the way to the boards and come in and do all kinds of because quite frankly, when are you gonna if during a game, that's never gonna happen. You're gonna come straight up the middle and that's it. That's what you got. It's whatever kind of moves you have. Not do this dipsy doodle, go to the penalty box, swing around, do a triple Indy. That's not gonna happen. So it's completely unrealistic. So that aspect I don't care for at all. I'd rather them come right up the gut and that's it. If you score, you score. You don't, you don't. Um, uh, right or wrong. Now that's definitely my opinion. Now, I'm glad I don't have to play against any of that garbage because I probably wouldn't do well because it's completely unconventional. It doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. And I know Gary Bettman wanted to bring it in because at the time, I don't even know if it was the IHL at the time or if it had turned into the AHL. But he wanted it because the fans like that. So, and I get it. It's the fans' game, so why not? But personally, meh, take it or leave it. I mean, it's great for minor league hockey. Don't get me wrong, but
A little bit
Fans
more
love seeing it.
finesse these days.
Well, I know, like the
Most
NHL, they'll
interesting.
scrape the middle of the ice, or at least I don't know if they put down fresh water, but if you're going to do that, that should be for the whole purpose of that's where you're skating. You can't go outside of that fresh, cleaned ice.
yeah, 100%. That was kind of, and I envisioned that when I was explaining it because I know that the width of the Zamboni is basically what they're doing, that conditioner, when you're taking up that whole half of the ice to come in the one on, alone on the goaltender. It's like I said, it's kind of like a fantasy. It's like you're playing Xbox or something. It just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Most interesting thing about that shootout was actually that Motor City scored all 4 of their goals in that shootout, as Port Huron only scored 2 of 4. So Hightower, Wynn, Colton, and Rotondi buried them all, while Chartrand and Van Orsdal are the only 2 that were able to get it in for Port Huron. So you don't see that very often with all 4 being able to bury it.
No, and then shootouts are going to have a whole different look this year with the rule changes. So now you still have the best of 3 in the shootout, but if you make it past that third round, you can repeat shooters as many times as you want.
Right.
Kind of going back to that TJ Oshie-esque moment from the Olympics years back where he shot, 8 times in a row, it seemed?
Golly.
At least for an hour he was coming one on, it just seemed it was over and over and over, but yeah.
You see,
the
that
Motor
I'm not a
City
fan of at
too.
all. I don't understand the thought process behind allowing that.
No. Motor City too, they've been pretty dismantled over the off season as well. They've got a
Yeah,
lot of their guys got scattered. Monroe's got some. Trevor Babin again is down in the SB. He's down there with Pensacola as well. I don't know if he got called back up yet. I don't know, but yeah, he's bouncing around. Scott Koash, we still have his rights, so let's see what happens over there. But I mean, they really got shaken up in the offseason.
In Motor City, excuse me, good God, Motor City seemed to started to take off in the latter part of last season. So losing your core players like that's got to be detrimental to what you were trying to build. So seemingly a rebuilding season out of nowhere where they really shouldn't have been.
So the last game that they had on night 2 was the new Hudson Valley Venom at home against the Danbury Hat Tricks. Hat Tricks pulled it off 4-2. We all know Danbury. They're traditionally they're a tough team.
Yeah, we'll see how well they hold together too this year, because last year they seemed to tail off just a little bit. So
yeah, they came into Mississippi and Mississippi beat them, and that's not normal.
Yeah, I was shocked to see that as well last year. So I was like, well, maybe they fall from grace a little bit, but it's another team you really kind of can't count out either.
No, they went deep too, so I wouldn't. They were all even strength goals that game, so they were all fighting it.
Josh, as you mentioned too, with the homecoming with Haskins, yeah, he was one of my favorites over there in Baton Rouge. But Noah Hippolyte Smith is another really good kid, and now you got the Hussey brothers back together, putting the band back together over there. Greg and Brendan are both good kids.
I do want to give a big shout out to Greg. He played outstanding in that night too. 20 shots in the first period, nothing go by. I think, unless Blake ends up coming back down to us, I really think he's going to be vying for that starting primary goalie spot here for the Seawolves this season.
Yeah, Greg's a tough competitor, man.
No, I'm excited to have both of them here. I know they're very competitive. They want to win, and they have what it takes, to make the team come together and lead us to a deep playoff run this year, hopefully.
Yeah, and then you said with Noah Hippolyte Smith, he's a really good kid. He's a lot of fun. He's always smiling. Don Carter Jr., another good defenseman. He may get called up again. I know we got him from the Marksman last year in the SP. And even with guys come back, I wish the SP would be a little more up to date on their transactions on who got cut from camp and everything. But I did get a text message today that we're getting Noah Robinson back up in Monroe.
So there's a good kid right there.
Yeah, so we're gonna see where he fits in too, because playing up against. Yeah, I laugh because so Baton Rouge last year we were a small team, if you guys remember.
Yeah.
Right, I think we had 3 or 4 guys like Cutting and French and Ozo, and maybe 1 or 2 other guys that were in the 6-foot range. So it was like we had 4 or 5 guys that were 6 foot. Everybody else was under. We've got like 4 or 5 guys that are under 6 foot in Monroe. We've got a bunch of monsters up there. With that being said, they're slower players to a point. They've got all kinds of skill, but you get in some of these other teams, they have some smaller guys, they have some speed and speed kills. So, Noah is one of those guys that he's not too tall, he's not too short, but he's quick and he's gritty, and he'll get in the corners and he'll get those greasy pucks out in front. So he'd be a big help. And and Hugo being so small and he's quick. It's just something for Mississippi to. Athens has some big boys, man. They got a tall group and they can move too.
Yeah. And that's another thing I'll say about Mississippi. They, I would say we were generally a smaller team the past 2 years. Had a few guys that had some height with them. This offseason, though, Coach Heap, Sam Turner, been recruiting like crazy along with Jason Wolf, our scout. And we've got some size back added on defense. Another player that surprised me as fast as he was and as many shots he put on net was Colby Audette. He did a fantastic job in the preseason games. Kind of taken over from that Jackson Bond role where Jackson he could just find openings throughout the ice and just jet right past the defense. So I think he's going to be another key piece in the team this year going forward.
Yeah, I think we're all going to have an interesting season, and then I don't know if we want to talk too about Carolina. I'm curious to see how they're going to be too, because They lost a couple pieces as well, but well, geez, you really want to talk about teams too that lost some parts? It was really Columbus did too. So
Yeah,
I'm really curious. Is as much as we know how good they are, I don't know how good they're gonna be. Um, I know Josh Petrangelo is out, or Petrantonio rather. I'm sorry. Um, he had a do not report, but I think he's coming back at some point. I'm not certain, but I mean both goaltenders being gone, Colgan being at Baton Rouge. Um, it's going to be interesting. I'm
Well, you
always
guys are going to
scared
be
of them.
the first ones to find out. So
Sure
let us
are.
know.
Tune in Friday and Saturday, and we're all going to find out.
Another thing worth noting is, we have all these new teams, attendance. Like that's what's going to drive these teams. I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at the Hudson Valley Venom, and their attendance for game 2. Well, what would have been game 2, 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one to. That's a
well,
tough
you got
one
to
to
look at the size of
swallow.
their rink too. They're playing in basically a recreational rink with stands on
Right.
one side. So it's kind of the same way that the Delaware Thunder had. They could fit about a little over 900 with standing room. And I went to
Yeah.
2 games up there. It was still a fun atmosphere. Just ends up being a small barn to play in. So as long as Hudson Valley's selling out with those 500 seats, that's all that really matters.
But is the 500 seats going to be enough to sustain that team?
I have those
You know,
thoughts too, but I don't think ownership of the league would allow it if they don't feel like it has something to work with. So I don't know if they're looking at maybe upgrading in an arena, if they're building something else, or if this is what their full time plan is for a home venue.
I say that because the Mississippi barn holds how many? 8,000.
You guys are like
86,
95.
47.
What's
If we
that?
still had the bleachers on the east end of the arena, it'd be 9,150.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's not like, we're packing it out, but we know behind the scenes there's still, like, I don't know, panic when we get below a certain number.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I feel like the league's going to have a plan. I really personally thought they were going to try to get away from going to those smaller barns. I mean, you look at teams like Watertown that have been around for, honestly, I can't remember when they first came into the league, but they have a really small arena too they play in, and they've been uh, a mainstay in the FPHL the FPHL for going back to the Thousand Island Privateers.
Well,
Um,
Danbury as well has got a small barn.
yeah. Um, Personally, I'd like to see about a medium to larger size, kind of on our end of being a larger. Um, the largest arenas in the league is going to be us, Baton Rouge, Columbus. Um, Carolina, I'd say, is coming in on the medium size. Blue Ridge now on the medium size. And Blue Ridge's new facility looks fantastic. I think it's Hitachi Energy Arena. The
Mm-hmm.
renovations they did look absolutely amazing, and I'm happy for them with those upgrades to the arena.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what their numbers are going to look like because we were just in preseason and they were coming in at 1,000 is what they're reporting. Honestly, between you and me, it didn't look that way on the live stream, but I mean, you can't see, towards the cameras, you can't see that.
Yeah.
No, but it almost looked like you could count the people that were in the stands. And I turned it on and I was like, what's going on here? But then I realized it's a preseason games. I mean, give or take, they should be happy or excited to see hockey back for the season. You'd think they'd have more people, but yeah, I do hope they get a better attendance. Because
The way I look at it
they
too,
did a nice job.
like in
Monroe
our
did
home
again.
barn, I'm at the top of the arena and I'm facing towards the benches. And I generally feel most nights we have more fans on my side of the arena versus the other. So like when people are watching the broadcast or whatever, like where's everyone at? And it's like, yeah, you have some sporadic open spots on that side of the arena, but on the penalty box side, that's almost packed. Going away most of the neutral zone and going into some of the attacking and defending zones most nights. So it's about perspective and things that people don't typically see too.
Yeah.
Monroe coming in about 3,600.
Yeah. So our seating in Monroe is 55-53. Opening night we did 52-37, and night 2 we did 35-98 with a little over 8,800 for 2 games. That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
No, and from what I'm hearing, that our season ticket / group sales executive we broke some kind of league record allegedly, which is great. I mean, it's been an overwhelming response to getting the hockey team back in Monroe. So I'm interested in being there live because the production looks great. Poor Joseph did the game all by himself this week, so I'll be I'll be back with him. But I tell you what, I'm looking forward to working with him again. He's top notch, a good kid, and he can call a game pretty well.
I tell you what, when I was I wouldn't say I was forced into, but when I had to take over the broadcast for Mississippi, he was very encouraging, especially, I'm not a broadcaster at all. So it was a learning curve, if you would. And he was encouraging even on, because people tend to be a little rough in the comments, and on the fan pages and stuff like that. He was the first one to text me and be like, "Hey man, don't worry about what they say. You're doing what you got to do, and someone's got to do it."
Yeah, he's right too.
Is like, I wasn't happy with most of the stuff I did last year, and coming in never doing play-by-play before, I was just trying to do the best thing that I could to help the team, to give them an experience for their broadcast. The hardest part was trying to call a game on a monitor versus being there live. A lot of the camera angles, the feeds weren't great. I couldn't see numbers. I couldn't see names. So it's really hard to actually give an in-depth take onto what's going on in the game when you can't figure out who's got the puck.
And people don't see that.
And one of the hardest ones too, Joseph, was he called the game when you guys had the in Mississippi, when you had the military jerseys, and he's right. It was very hard to see what the numbers were from the booth because the way the camo was, it blended everything together. And he has a problem with colors, so that was really difficult for me. He's like, I was lost. He really was.
That's been fixed for this year. It was one of those, the design looked great, but I don't think we really thought about how it would look from a distance. And I know the off-ice officials were like, what the heck's going on? Like, impossible to try to score the game when you can't read the numbers. So I know I designed a handful of our jerseys for this year, and I made sure very well to make sure the numbers were legible on there so we could tell who's doing what.
And that's where I think we had the advantage, because we know the players, we know how they skate, we know, we still were able to, for the most part, get the right numbers out there just because we know the players. But I felt bad for our visiting broadcasters, because they're just kind of like, what is going on here?
And I believe I was up in the booth with Joseph with one of the games that you were up there, Matt.
Yeah.
And we all had a good time up there. That might have been the night, and I'm going to tell the story because I think it's hilarious. So I think it was that night. You remember when your fans were harassing Joseph during the first intermission? Well, what had happened was Joseph came up after the first intermission, and he's like, "You're not going to believe this." He's all frazzled. And I said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "There's a bunch of high school kids down there. They were saying," and I'm not going to say what they were saying, but they were pretty vulgar. And I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, I'm going down there with you next period." He's like, "Serious?" I said, "Absolutely." So at the buzzer at the second period, I took to put my jacket. I said, "Come on, let's go." He's like, "Serious?" Oh yeah. We went downstairs. We saw those kids, and boy, real quick, they were yes sir, no sir. They changed their tune real quick, but they were going to beat up little Joseph.
There was one group of fans, and I'd say for the most part, we really have a great fan base in Mississippi.
You've got a passionate fan base in Mississippi.
there's only been
I
one
respect
instance where
that.
I've seen issues, and it looked to be like a bunch of high school kids that decided they wanted to do what they were going to do. They had some signs that were, I'm going to be honest, over the line towards a player.
Yeah.
Signs never should have been allowed in the arena, and after that, they actually started banning all signs, which I understand.
Yeah.
But like, you're going to have fans that get passionate about games, and as long as you're not being completely ugly, like at the end of the day, it's a game. There's no sense in being outright rude or disrespectful to visiting fans. Like, it's supposed to be a fun family atmosphere, some great fun family entertainment, and something to get behind locally that that you can call yours. And so that's something I'd say Mississippi's always been great about, is having those fans that are very welcoming, um, and embracing visiting fans. Back in the day, I mean, I can't tell you, um, the entrance tunnel to the left of the visiting penalty or the bench, that was almost always full when we were playing Pensacola, the Ice Gators, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Mobile. Almost all the local areas where fans traveled, that whole section was pretty much full of those fans, and never once really had any issues. Was just a fun, friendly, competitive environment.
I feel bad because I came down here to the South. I'm, as you guys know, I'm from Detroit originally. And when I got down here, it was towards the tail end of the Mississippi Surge.
Oh
And
yeah.
I decided one time, I was dating my wife at the time, and I decided I was going to take the boys, our two older boys, take them out to a game, and I took one of their friends with them, and it was cool. They spend time with the whatever their mascot was.
Don't mention his name.
I
Was
He
it
don't
shall not
even.
be
Sergi?
named.
I wish I
No,
would. I wish I knew what it was.
you don't need
What
to
was
know if
it?
we're going to keep it that way. Nope, we're not going
Well,
to.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. What was the
Oh,
mascot in
you
general?
can't leave. You can't. Who knows?
So we
It was a
brought
giant
back,
blue
or
dude.
I say we, they brought back Hook in the last two seasons. Prior to that, there was another mascot that had blue fur, and it was just ridiculous and stupid. And I don't know who ever thought that was a good idea.
You guys have was it Grover?
No, that would
It
Grover
was.
would have been better.
Whatever.
I don't know
Yeah.
what. I honestly don't know what it was. It was like it was wearing a Surge jersey,
Uh,
and it almost looked
It was
like
a
a
monkey named
monkey.
Shock.
it
Oh,
was
that's
a monkey.
right.
Shock the monkey.
That's what he skated out to at the beginning of the game, was "Shock the Monkey" by Peter Gabriel.
Ah, for the love of God.
But
All right. Well,
I took him out there, and I got like really discount cheap tickets from ITT office on base. And it's like, when they give you those, they're like darn near nosebleed tickets or something like that. I get to the office, and I turn in the vouchers to get my tickets, and they're like, oh, you can sit wherever you want. Where do you want to sit? I was like, as close to the glass as possible. And those, tickets, how much do we sell those tickets for in Mississippi, Josh?
Glass tickets. It's been I'd have to look it up. I can't remember glass tickets off the top of my head. They're not terribly expensive, but
But they're up there. Like, they're more than the what, $10 I would pay for a regular ticket,
yeah, I think they're 13 or 16 for about mid level on the regular terrace seating. I can't remember the telescope seating prices though.
But anyways, I get in there, and I'm down on the glass with the boys, and I look around, I'm like, there's nobody here. Like, they're out there playing, and we're looking at the fights, and we're having a good time, but I'm like, dude, there's nobody here to even have fun with. And that's
so you
that's
heckled
where
yourself?
essentially
A lot of
essentially.
that came down to the lack of marketing the team did. Like, they had potential, and the hard part was, yeah, we were going from the ECHL down to the SPHL, and so we lost some fans there going, we're losing in quality of
But they
hockey.
were still winning, though.
The way they saw it, we had guys that had a chance of making the NHL down to the SPHL, where slim to none possibly getting there. You may get to the AHL. Um, that, and honestly, I think the name change had a lot to do with the lack of support. We'd had the Seawolf since '96. Coming in, the ECHL retained the rights to the name and logo, which I still think is ridiculous. But they ended up doing a name of the team contest. The head coach at the time, Stefan Walby, was also the GM. He'd mentioned the result of the naming contest. The winner was actually the Hurricanes, but he said they weren't going to do that. The Hurricanes is a name that I suggested in there. I thought, people build back strong after them. They're extremely tragic events, especially what's going on currently in the United States right now. And, my thoughts and prayers are with everybody affected by Milton and Helene. Going off that, they ended up naming the team the Mississippi Surge, which people ended up still taking issue with because they're thinking of storm surge. The surge of water coming up, even though it was meant to be like an electrical power surge. It was one of those. I think it was a bad choice. It wasn't a great brand. I can't stand wordmark logos. And the fact that our primary logo was just like a lightning bolt S, I thought was very lame and unoriginal. But it is what it is. It's in the past. We're back here with the Seawolves. We're doing a great thing. We're rebuilding, what we used to have, and our support's better than ever now. I think we're going to have, better attendance this year. We have a lot of great promotional nights in store. Like every night, we may not be wearing specialty jerseys every night, but we have something going on every night, trying to bring new people in, new fans in, to join the Wolfpack.
So how do you feel about the new branded logos?
I love it. I love the colors, the black, teal, and purple. Funny enough, that was the colors of the Richmond Renegades when we won the Kelly Cup in '99. But, we're embracing this welcome to the beach vibe. That's something that really wasn't played on a whole lot aside from the original colors. The team had the '90s, which was that red, blue, and like goldish yellow. Because when they did it, they said the red represented the heat, the blue, the water, and like that goldish, the sand on the beach. But these new colors kind of give like a Miami Vice type look. And I love the new logos. The new wolf head's very aggressive. It's simple. It's not overbearing as far as the design. And I will say I was the one that designed the previous logo that we used, which I still think we're going to be using in some iterations this season. But I do agree with Joe. Like, we needed something a little more simple. But yeah, like even Monroe Moccasins, that logo right there, that's simple. That's fantastic. And I love sticking it to the Columbus fans, considering y'all are basically the Monroe Cottonmouths, going with the actual name of Moccasins, though. So,
well, they were the Monroe Moccasins back when they had a team, and I want to say it's like it was USHL or something. And I don't think I've ever heard of the league, and I felt bad.
It was the Central Hockey League, if I'm not mistaken.
That's probably what it was, but it's a variation and a recreation, I think, of the logo. I like it a lot. I like the colors. They go. I mean, even the third jersey is a kind of a kickoff to or a nod to the Golden Knights. To where our so I know you guys, if you did watch the game this weekend, both teams wore white.
I was going to bring that up, and I'm like, who did this?
And it's been a topic of conversation inside some groups.
Yeah, so this is what I think happened. So I'm getting bits and pieces, but since I was up there last week, I kind of have an idea what might have happened. I'm not sure if the Blacks came in yet, and I don't think Athens brought both sets. So it was what it was. Now, from a goaltending standpoint, I'm sure that was a pain in the ass, because the only way you could really, what I would have done was look at the pants, because the pants were red, and we had black pants, and that'd be the only way to decipher, because you get white jerseys, red sleeves. It's like, oh man, here we go. This is rough.
At least Athens had that solid red going down the sleeves, and it wasn't like cut up by stripes and had white down the rest of it.
Right. So I mean, if you're looking through, you might think that your guys got the puck, you're clearing it, but they're actually taking a shot at you. So I see how that can be a problem. But yeah, I think that's what happened. Because I know we wore our road helmets. Our road helmets are going to be matte black. Our home helmets are chrome gold. So they're pretty slick. They look good. And actually, if you look at our website, I know Hugo's wearing. He's standing up at a fountain at the Civic Center, and he's wearing the black jersey with the chrome helmet, and that's the look we're going with. But yeah, I think that's what happened. I think the jerseys will, if they're not here already, they're gonna be here for the game this weekend. So yeah, it was a little weird. I'm like, what are we doing? What's going on here? But
I was
yeah,
watching
there's a lot of
starting
things.
lineups. I'm like, something doesn't look right.
A lot of things didn't look right, but it's, you know what? The way I look at it is, look, who cares? It was opening night. Every team that's come into this league has had Baton Rouge last year, that opening night. That was a fiasco. Weren't you there last year for opening night?
I was y'all's public
Josh?
address announcer.
Yeah, because I know you came in with the Hawaiian shirt, and I was happy to see you. And I was like, because I knew who you were. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And you did a great job because poor Colin had a rough go with his. I mean, he had a great radio voice, but no hockey IQ. So
Yeah.
it was kind of. I mean, he's calling. I mean, during the middle of the play, and he's "Let's go, Zydeco." We're going, what the hell is he doing? Well, you
don't talk while the puck's in play.
Oh my gosh! Or the goalie made a save. He's like, "Big save." I'm like, "You're not an announcer. It's not how that works."
Unless you're, teams are at full strength calling a penalty or calling goals, you don't speak during play.
Yeah, it was painful, and I was embarrassed, for him. But you know what? He didn't know, and in his defense, he did a good job, ish. But once again, everybody in their opening night's going to have some kind of a mess. And this week's we'll have everything ironed out. It's going to be fine in business as usual.
Shoot, the Seawolves, they're a third-year team. They were wearing their warm-up jerseys as game jerseys.
I noticed that because you don't want guys wearing jerseys that haven't earned them yet. So if you haven't earned that spot on the final roster, you don't get to wear the final jersey for the regular season. So
is that what they were doing
that. Yeah, I mean that's how it was in the first year. I had just brought up the visiting jerseys for training camp in our first season. And when I was talking with Esposito, our head coach at the time, I was like, are the guys going to get to debut these tonight? And he's like, no, they haven't earned the right to wear these yet. So for the preseason game, they wore their practice jerseys. And, with us still having our warm-up jerseys from last year, just an easy transitions, already got numbers, still got the names from the previous players last year. But, you have to earn that spot to be able to wear that crest and have your name on the back of that jersay.
And those are Omnitech jerseys, aren't they?
No, those were CJT.
CJT, right. Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking it said JET, and I'm like, I turned it on for a second. I'm going,
no, the Jets are playing tonight right now.
What's going on with that? Does anybody know?
I don't know, but I need the Jets to have an absolutely abysmal game to win fantasy this week because I have Buffalo's defense, and they're right now what's keeping me currently undefeated, the only undefeated team in my league. And right now it's not.
We should have done fantasy hockey this year, but I think it's too late already.
I've never done fantasy hockey. I don't know how
back in the day we did it. It's really tough. There's a lot into it. It could be easy. You can do it off a computer. It depends.
My guys at church, they're doing a fantasy football right now, and my wife's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do it." And she gets, I set her up with a team on ESPN fantasy. And I'm not going to lie, neither of us have looked at it. Like, zero cares given.
You check back, you got four people with 0 points because it's all on a bye week.
I actually looked at it today because somebody had mentioned it from church because I was there for Bible study. And she's 2-3 right now. So, I mean, and then I think we're playing my associate pastor this week, and I think we're probably going to lose, but whatever.
Well, Mississippi boys, what do you guys say about your series with Baton Rouge this weekend?
Oh,
I think I'm pulling for Mississippi this weekend. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, no way.
Well, I mean, it's really 6 of one, half dozen the other, right? I mean,
it's true,
right?
I don't know a whole lot about Baton Rouge's team this year. I didn't get to see any preseason. I know they did an inter-squad scrimmage, I think last week or earlier this week. Mississippi, if they're clicking, if they're making good passes, if they're playing a full 60 minutes, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat, especially with the new talent and the youth we have on our squad this year. Still great leadership with our captain Justin Barr. I know Greg Hussey was talking about how he's excited to have Dave Heaps there as our new head coach. Says it's a great learning experience. They're having fun. They're getting along. So as long as they're able to gel early on and play a full 60 minutes, I think Mississippi is going to be a problem for some teams this year.
At the same time, you see in game 1 this week, Mississippi was resilient and came back. Even though they fell, they still were resilient and came back. I think we were down 4 goals at that point.
We were down 4-1. Came back, ultimately losing 6-5, but it was just that no quit grit that we had. And again, I think
we saw it in game 2.
Yeah, and only being able to skate together for less than a week and then starting to play games, that's like really positive in my opinion, because you've never skated with some of these guys, and yeah, some things were off as far as passing or trying to anticipate where someone should be, or you just mental mistakes. But if they get together, if they gel and they start clicking, I think we're going to have a really great season.
There's one thing that I know about Baton Rouge, and I mean, like I said, I was an MC for the Seawolves for a couple years, and their fans are interesting. I will say that. It didn't matter if I was walking through the crowd or if I was, on the fan page or anything like that. They're passionate. They're a passionate bunch. They got like offshoots, something called Zydeco Mafia. I don't know what that is, but they're I've seen some of their posts. Yeah, I'll say, roll them eyes, Pete. Roll them eyes.
Yeah, whatever.
But
yeah,
I've seen
you know
posts.
what?
Was that a little Chicago that snuck out?
Oh, there's going to be a lot. You tune into the broadcast this week, and you're going to hear a lot of it. But that Zydeco Mafia thing, that's just what. Look, let's just not give them any kind of acknowledgement right now, right? Because it's just going to fuel the ego. Because let's just say I know who, at least one of the, and I'm going to say one of, because it's a committee of Zydeco Mafia, but I'm not going to reveal who one of them is because I actually like the people. However, I don't like some of the stuff that they say, and it irritates me a little bit. But that's okay. Scoreboard. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I know Lucas Helland is currently up in Knoxville, so we may or may not be. We may or may be not. Good God, we may not have his services this week. We may have them, depending on what happens. I want what's best for him. If he gets a spot with the Ice Bears, great on him. I'm happy for him. If he comes back, I don't think Baton Rouge has Matthew Bazarin to try to bully anybody around.
Honestly, I don't think Baton Rouge has anybody. Well, I take that back. They've got Elias Thompson, he's a formidable fighter. He had a really good fight. I mean, do you guys remember Caleb Melanson? He was over there for a minute. He was an equipment manager, really tall kid. He plays in the Bayou Battle League. They scrapped, and I'm going to have to give the edge to Caleb. He fared very well against Elias, but Elias is no slouch, man. Him and Justin Schmidt have had some pretty good heavyweight bouts.
Schmitty, good Lord.
I like Schmitty. He's a trip.
He's an awesome guy. He is. He's really cool.
Really
he's
is.
really relaxed.
Yeah, he's very laid back, but he'll beat you up. Now, That being said, did you see some of the boys we've got up in Monroe, like Catlin Big Snake? Have you seen his numbers on his height and weight?
I've seen some people think y'all were doing the XFL deal with nicknames because you have, was it Miniguns and Big Snake?
Those are their real names.
Oh, That's I'm saying that. No. Yeah, I'm saying there were some legit. People not realizing that was their real names.
I said all we need now is some loose cannons, and we're really dangerous, man. We've got, but no, Big Snake. He's legit, man. He is. If you look up some of his fights, man, this boy is what 6'6", 276. That's a linebacker. That's
Yeah.
that's a defensive tackle. And we all many guns. Yeah, he racked up like 17 penalty minutes the other night. You know, he was game misconduct. There was a roughing, a fighting, a puppet, pirate, a poet, all kinds of stuff. It was wild. But even oh man, who we've got guys that can throw, but I mean, you go up against some dude like that, you're going to think twice.
And that's like one thing Mississippi got. Carter Eha, the man with the blonde mullet, is not afraid to throw the body. He seemed very aggressive, enjoyed putting on checks. And then he wasn't afraid, took quite a few shots on goal as well. But, you know, between Philip Wong, Matt Stoya, Carter Eha now, we got quite a few people that aren't afraid to lay the body. And even last year, Stoya and Wong never afraid to drop the gloves and, you know, stand up for a teammate.
Yeah, you know, these guys, you know, I talked to one of the coaches today. I talked to our assistant coach, Dugan, and he said, you know, he likes these kids. They're all really good kids in our locker room. He said he doesn't see a problem with anybody. They all seem to be ready to play and play for each other. And I think that's once you get those boys to buy into the system that this is a family from here on out, you're going to be with each other for a long time unless somebody screws up and gets shipped out. Play for each other, pick each other up when you're down, and move forward. That's what you're going to have to do. No hot shots in the locker room. There's no I in team, right, boys?
Yeah. Now, not getting into actual details, have you talking with Mo since he's taken over as head coach?
I haven't. I was gonna. I like Mo a lot. He's a really good guy. Did I see this? Did I see the change coming in after the first game? I don't think. I don't think just the game had anything to do with it. I don't know, but you know, in a way, it's kind of good that you make a coaching decision. If you're going to do it right away. Don't string it on 10, 12 games. Baton Rouge kind of did that last year where we had that coaching identity thing. They finally picked it up with Everett, and they stuck with it. Now they bought into a system and so on. I think Mo's going to be a great coach. I'm kind of bummed that he's not going to be a player, considering he's the fourth leading scorer all time, I believe, in the Fed. And he was going to be the captain. So now I don't know where the letters are going to sit. But we'll find out this week. But man, congratulations to him. I'm really proud to have him as our coach. And then Parker was an assistant coach this weekend, and poor guy right now is sick as a dog. So we'll see how he's feeling. Yeah, he's really sick. But interesting coaching moves. But I tell you what, from game 1 to game 2, there was a big significant difference of play. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, you guys got a new coach too. I wish them luck. I hope all the teams in the South have a good season. It's good for all of us.
Like, while I'm rooting for Mississippi in general, I want every team to be successful, because if they're successful, we're going to be successful. If you start having teams that are dropping off, attendance starts dropping off, possibility of ever losing a team sucks. I've gone through it twice. Like, you want teams in the league to be successful as they can. Outside of that rivalry on the ice. So, you know, I'm wishing everybody in the league good luck this year. I'm hoping for a great competitive season. And hopefully here at the end of it, we'll be lifting the Commissioner's Cup here in Biloxi.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Before we sign off, you know, just some things to keep in mind. That we talked about Baton Rouge and Mississippi squaring off this week. Hudson Valley will definitely test their mettle as they host the Black Bears there in New York. The Rock Lobsters will travel to Blue Ridge, so that'll be an interesting one to see. Carolina and Port Huron, you know, that I think that's going to be a solid battle. But we'll get our first look at the Dashers as they head up to Watertown. So that'll be a fun one.
That's quite the travel. That is quite the travel.
There, yes. Not like the 23 hours from here, but still quite a ways away.
Oh,
And then,
man.
of course, Monroe will welcome in the River Dragons. So that'll be another test your metal moment for you guys. So definitely excited to see what's going to go down this week.
And don't forget the Sunday game where we go to Baton Rouge for the Battle of the Boot, where that starts. Because my only worry is we're going to be tired from those two games, because that's a lot of hockey. That's a lot.
Please
a
tell
lot.
me
And
there's a trophy for this season.
well, we got to make something. It'll be great. But to tell you what, now I'm not even going to say in defense of, but I know our ice in Monroe wasn't really ready to skate on till like Thursday ish. And I don't think the boys really got on the ice till Friday. Don't quote me on that, but I think they went almost a full week without skating. So that says a lot too.
Logos look good though.
Oh, didn't they? Let me just tell you what. I ordered all the logos. And I was going to talk Parker into the snakehead because he didn't want to do it. He's like, well, what if we just do two little ones? I said, no, because the one I had in the middle was supposed to be almost take up that whole circle. And I talked him into doing half the size. He's like, oh man, I'm glad you talked me into it, because that looks really good. So yeah, it does look really nice. And I'd like to see it in person this weekend.
I'll say Mississippi decided to use the two new logos on either side of the center ice. I think I saw that on Facebook. They definitely look better than last year's gray logos. So,
those are great. It looks like the ice had a surge.
all I'm saying is I'm lucky we don't have to hear about it this year.
Yeah. I personally not a fan of the two logos. I'd rather have one big one right there at center ice.
They did the side by side?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I don't like that either.
We have our paw print on the left side if you're looking at the team benches, and the new wolf head on the right side.
Okay.
But, again, the ice does look fantastic. I was at the arena last week when they were putting in some of the logos and stuff. Some nice new sponsor logos on the ice that are going to look pretty cool and unique, especially pay attention to the face-off dots outside of the center ice dot. Cool little sponsorship deal there we've got that it's going to be definitely unique for us.
Well, I think we got a big week ahead of us, and hopefully we'll be back with another recap, and hopefully we'll have some special guests coming soon. I know I talked to somebody today. Unfortunately, we were unable to make it, but we'll definitely have more coming. So stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in to the Benchminer podcast. I'm Matt Horde alongside Pete Fricano and Josh Law. We'll see you at the next one.